I would like to ask you a question that means absolutely nothing.
Sure, go ahead.
What dinosaur do you think will work best in customer service?
That's a good question. How do you know this? You weren't there, but I am here right now. And,
We can observe that there were and are dinosaurs.
yeah. If birds existed during the dinosaur time, then how can they be evolved dinosaurs? Well, if dogs existed during the same time as wolves exist, then how can dogs be wolves? Birds evolved from a group of dinosaurs in the mid-Jurassic, but the dinosaurs that weren't birds went extinct at the end Cretaceous.
And for the person asking about what their most recent descendants are, it's all of the
It's
birds.
all the birds. Do you think Stegosaurus used its place for heat, display, or defense? Probably display, mainly. Thank you, Dakota. My fun fact about Therizinosaurus is that they used to be considered to be turtles.
Really?
Because their claws were very close to turtles, but once more was found. Is there any evidence of dinosaurs being fungivores? Not that I'm aware of, because fossilized stomach contents for dinosaurs are quite rare, but there are some Devonian fungivores. There's some fungivorous hexapods that are found in some super old Devonian strata, and they're some of the earliest animals ever, or on land. Yeah, Therizinosaurus claws are cool. I have seen Prehistoric Planet. No, so Therizinosaurus are not turtles. They are cool, big bird-looking things with claws. They're Maniraptorans. They're known to be Maniraptorans, but they used to be thought to be turtles because when they were found, their claws resembled turtle claws. You're good with these long words? Yeah, I get paid to say long words, basically.
I had to correct you on a long word the other day.
Yes. Hello, Bailey. What's your question?
Alrighty, so out of the depictions of all of the dinosaurs appearing in the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World franchise, what depictions are most accurate and what depictions are the least accurate?
Okay. So for the least accurate, I have to say probably the Dimetrodon. I'm gonna include the non-dinosaurs here because I think they're some of the best examples of both the most and least accurate designs. I think the Dimetrodon, the Microceratus, I think it is, and the Baryonyx are all not particularly well designed, and they're generally, for the Dimetrodon, it's I think an example of looking not enough at the actual taxonomy of the animal and where it sits in life. Dimetrodon is much more closely related to mammals than dinosaurs, but in the movie they made it look kind of like a crocodile, which, is a little bizarre. It would have had like small hairs, if anything, as opposed to those big crocodile scoots. I think the Microceratus is a good example of not looking at the skeletal anatomy closely enough, because in the Microceratus design for Jurassic World Dominion, I think it was, they put the eye in the nose hole, which made it look a little bit strange. And I think for the Baryonyx, that generally resulted probably from them not looking at the skeletal from multiple angles and assuming that because the skull looked like a crocodile from the side, it would look like a crocodile from the top, which it doesn't. It's very narrow compared to the kind of V shape of a crocodile skull. In terms of the most accurate designs, the Quetzalcoatlus is really great. From the Jurassic World Dominion, Quetzalcoatlus is great. That's a really good design, despite the size. The size it's like way too big, but the anatomy of it is really good. It's got proto feathers and everything. It's really great. The Giganotosaurus, in terms of skeletal anatomy, is not terrible, but it does have scoots all over its body like a crocodile, which isn't super plausible. The Therizinosaurus is quite good. It does have a head that doesn't look like a lot of the other Therizinosaurs, but we don't have a skull from Therizinosaurus, so we have no real way to tell that that's correct or incorrect. Is it unlikely? Yeah, but is it impossible? No. And I think from the original trilogy, probably the most accurate dinosaur is, I would have to say probably the Stegosaurus from the Lost World. They look really good. They made them a little bit less accurate in the newer movies, but the Stegosaurus from the Lost World have, pretty strong posture. They just are a little skinny.
besides like dinosaurs, the Quetzal is my all-time favorite prehistoric animal. Um, also, what are your thoughts on the depiction of the Sinoceratops in the Jurassic World movies? Because I know that it had holes in its frill, and I know that it's kind of debated whether or not the Sino actually had holes when it was alive.
Well, more so than debated, it's pretty clear where like the source of the Sinoceratops holes in its frill thing came from. When you're looking at animals related to Sinoceratops for paleoart references, there's not much to go off of besides Pachyrhinosaurus, because that's one of the most well illustrated centrosaurs. But if you look at Pachyrhinosaurus on the internet and you're looking for references to design your Sinoceratops, you will very much come across, or at least would have come across in the time that they were doing the second Jurassic World movie, these images of Pachyrhinosaurus with a hole in their frill that is visible not just from looking at the bone, but on the skin. And that's only on one side, and it's because it's in reference to a character from the Walking with Dinosaurs like movie special, where that character received an injury that had him have that hole in his frill. And they carried that hole over to Sinoceratops, and they made it symmetrical without really checking. Because in general, ceratopsians absolutely had tissue covering those holes in their head. They're I believe, adaptations of the superior temporal fenestrae. And so they just kind of stretch backward and would have been filled with tissue, just like the fenestrae would have in life. So yeah, Sinoceratops definitely didn't have visible holes in its frill. It would have just had hard parts around the outside, and then kind of a softer, but not necessarily soft part in the middle.
All right, and final question. What dinosaurs and or prehistoric animals would have been in or around Kentucky?
All right. Let's check. Probably the best way to do this is actually to go on PBDB. PBDB.org. Navigator. PBDB Navigator is a website that you can go on, and it literally just tells you like where fossil sites have been reported. So let's go Dinosauria. And then I can go to specifically Mesozoic dinosaurs. And then I can go to the United States. Where is Kentucky? That's a good question. There it is. I knew it. I knew that was Kentucky. The name just wasn't coming up.
Yeah, I thought I'd ask because when I joined, you were talking about Tennessee, and Kentucky's right above it. So
yeah, okay.
Is there not
So
much?
there are some track sites, it looks like, in the right where Kentucky and Virginia kind of come close to each other.
That's more just in Virginia, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just
That's
in
pretty
Virginia.
solidly in Virginia. Right? Okay. Yeah, so there haven't been any dinosaur materials reported from Kentucky that I can see on the PBDB.
While you're at it, you want to check Ohio? Someone was just asking about
I
that.
already did Ohio.
Oh, okay.
But there are a lot of older things in Kentucky. I do know that there's some older records of cnidarians and like snails and mollusks and that sort of thing. Potentially because the sea level was a lot higher during most of the Mesozoic. Like if you pull this out just from Dinosauria to all Mesozoic fossils, if it loads. Okay, PBDB is very slow. It's not particularly okay. So it's going to start to populate, but there are Mesozoic fossils from Kentucky, I believe. And they would be largely oceanic, which explains why there's not so many dinosaurs there. Generally, East Coast paleontology is pretty good.
all right, and sorry, I just thought of another question. What like among shit? I just forgot the word. So like you have ceratopsians and you have like titanosaurs, what is like the class that like Stegosaurus and Kentrosaurus and all of that would fall into?
So Stegosaurus and Kentrosaurus and all the ankylosaurs are what we call marginocephalians. Or not, sorry, not marginocephalians. That's the ceratopsians. They're thyreophorans. That's all the dinosaurs that have like big bony plates on their back called osteoderms, whether they're lying flat on the back as in Ankylosaurus or whether they're sticking straight up like in Stegosaurus.
Right. And what is your favorite titanosaur?
My favorite titanosaur is probably Dreadnoughtus shrani because I know a lot of the people who worked on it, and so I'm kind of biased.
Alrighty, thank you for answering all my questions. Have a good day.
Of course. Have a great day. See ya. Why didn't the water-based dinosaurs not survive after the meteor? So the aquatic reptiles, most of which, pretty much all of which are not dinosaurs, did not survive because the meteor didn't like hit and shake the earth really bad and then all the dinosaurs died. The reason that aquatic ecosystems collapsed is because most aquatic ecosystems are sustained on phytoplankton, and phytoplankton gets its energy from the sun. So when you have a bunch of ash go into the air from a meteor hitting the earth and hang there for 2 years, aquatic ecosystems can't function because the phytoplankton aren't bringing energy into them anymore. I have a really important question. I'm an archaeologist and everyone thinks I study dinosaurs. Yeah, no, people think I'm an archaeologist all the time. Is that the reverse for you? It's never really that they think I don't study dinosaurs. It's that when I say I study dinosaurs, they think I'm an archaeologist. People don't really think that paleontology exists unless they've watched Friends, and then they go like, "Oh my gosh, you're what's his name? Josh Geller. Is it Josh Geller?
No, it's Ross.
Ross Geller. Oh my god, I'm such a bad.
I will admit the reason I know his name is because there was a stream that RT Game did where he like played Mario Kart with him.
Yeah, well, RT Game loves Ross Geller. How do you become a paleontologist? I am still in the process of becoming a paleontologist. I'm just a researcher right now. I am relatively qualified to talk about this because I spend a good chunk of my time working with dinosaur specimens and other prehistoric animals. And writing stuff down about them and working on a research project, as well as, assisting my colleagues with their projects. How do you know some dinosaurs had feathers from their bones? Primary feathers, particularly the ones found in the Maniraptorans, actually attach directly to the bones, and they leave these little pits in the bones when they're pulled out called quill knobs, and you see those both in modern birds and in extinct dinosaurs like Velociraptor. All right, welcome up, T-Rex 1230.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's up? What's your question, T-Rex 1230?
I got two quick questions that I was wondering about last time, but you had to go bird watching or whatnot.
Yeah.
So my first question was what you think is the most interesting social hierarchy from dinosaurs, like behaviors that we can pick up. Like I know Jurassic Park shows like velociraptors and whatnot acting very together, but is there other species of that caliber that are realistic?
Yeah, so we do have some very isolated, hard evidence for social behavior in dinosaurs. For example, there is a paper a while ago that described a fossil footprint site of giant theropod dinosaurs, so the big meat-eating dinosaurs, standing around in what's called a Lekking circle, which is what happens when... I'm trying to pull up the paper right now because I forget what it's called, but I think I saved it. But...
Because I know herbivores had a tendency, just for safety and whatnot. But the carnivores is more interesting to me, and their hierarchies that they may have had.
Yeah, well, what Lekking circles indicate is that when these animals mated, they wouldn't just do so by finding an isolated mate. They would have some kind of actual proper mating ritual. Where they would gather together and they would create, display arenas in the ground by removing debris and scraping away material, which is, what the footprints show is that, you have a bunch of these presumably male dinosaurs, because that's what we see in modern birds, scraping out little circular display arenas in the ground and then standing in them and doing some kind of repetitive performance.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
We don't know exactly what species that is. We can only identify it that it's a theropod because it has, the theropods have very distinctive, like, three-toed footprints.
Yeah.
It was theropods leaving those, but they're fairly large theropods that were doing it. Yeah.
Neat. I'll have to look into that paper.
Yes.
So my second question is if you think, or I guess there could be hard evidence, but if there's any personal or connection that people made throughout history to invent dragons, because they're so common throughout many cultures. I've always thought maybe there's a link, obviously, because they're pretty similar in stature and whatnot, but not real.
The main link across cultures that talk about things that look like dragons seems to be, in general, them being around large reptiles. In terms of medieval European dragons, which are the only ones that get described as breathing fire, there's actually kind of an interesting story around that. Dragons first really start showing up in, medieval literature when you get expeditions to Africa, where people start talking about these giant reptiles that can kill a person and they have forked tongues. They're talking generally about Nile monitors, which are very large, very real, very dangerous aquatic lizards that are found pretty commonly in North Africa. And, a lot of the stuff that talks about dragons from that time is very consistent with what you would see from a monitor lizard. But as the story kind of spreads out of Africa and you start getting into more fantasy stuff, the most interesting thing that happens is people start getting inconsistent with the amount of points that the forked tongue of the monitor lizard has. And so they start drawing them with 3 points and 4 points, and then eventually you get so many that it looks like the animal is breathing fire, and that's very easy to misconstrue. If you're looking at a sculpture and someone says that's a dragon, you're like, oh, very logically it's breathing fire, because a tongue with like 100 points on it just looks like fire shooting out of its mouth. And monitor lizards also have very brightly colored tongues. They're very bright red or pink in a lot of cases. And so the colors would be similar if it was a painting. And so that seems to be where the origin of the whole dragons breathing fire thing comes from. And at least dragons in European literature seem to be inspired primarily by varanid lizards, like the monitor lizards. In East Asia, there's a lot of debate about what could have, done that. But
yeah, they're more snake-like and such.
In general, there's a lot of cultural overlap between the depictions and like cultural position of Asian dragons and the previously much larger distribution of the Chinese crocodile or the Chinese alligator, which used to be all over a lot of China, but in modern times is very, very rare. So it's possible that as this animal got rarer, the public understanding of what it was drifted away from, what a person who'd actually seen it would talk about, because more and more people were talking about it and fewer people were seeing it.
Huh. That is really interesting. I always thought there would be some connection with dinosaurs since they're so similar, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, yeah. Before I head out, I should say your Monster Hunter stuff is awesome, and keep at that.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah.
You guys have a good one.
All right. Welcome up, Nephilim.
Hi, I would like to ask you a question that means absolutely nothing.
Sure, go ahead.
What dinosaur do you think will work best in customer service?
What dinosaur do I think would work best in customer service?
I think they would bite people a little too much.
Well, yeah. That's a good question.
I don't think any of them would do well in a restaurant.
No, I think you'd want to pick one that looks scary but wouldn't go after a human being.
Yeah.
I think for that reason you would probably pick
Therizinosaurus might be one of those. The big fingers.
Yeah, but they have such a long neck that they wouldn't be able to talk to people.
I mean, they could bend it down.
Not really, no.
Imagine you go into like
the neck of Therizinosaurus wasn't especially flexible.
Okay, well, it could at least look down.
Yeah, but it would make it difficult for it to get into the building.
Yeah, well, you could have like but assume you like walk into a store and you're just really ready to like yell at some poor customer service person, and you walk up to like the register and there's just this big ass dinosaur staring down at you with like foot long claws.
Yeah, I would pick probably probably Udonceratops. They have a giant head relative to their body, so they would be comparatively easy to get in the building compared to how scary they would be if you looked them in the eyes.
What do they look like?
Udonceratops.
My favorite part about this is I started off by saying some nonsensical question and just had actual deliberation between the two of you.
Yeah.
I have strong opinions about a lot of things. This is Udonceratops.
Yeah. I could see that working out.
I didn't expect you to have strong opinions on what dinosaur would be in customer service well.
Yeah, well, I have strong opinions about a lot of things that a lot of people consider irrelevant to most conversations.
I mean, follow-up question. What dinosaur would be good in management?
What dinosaur would be good in management?
Oh.
The Harris hawk.
The
It's
Harris
the
hawk,
only
yeah.
one with a really strong, cohesive social structure. And I know it's kind of a cop-out to say a modern bird, but I think you need a Harris hawk. I can't think of any dinosaur that is better at telling other things what to do than a Harris hawk.
Are crows not known for having
They don't.
social structure?
They don't pack hunt. They don't coordinate. They're
Interesting.
smart.
They're-
They're smart and they're social. But you can be really good at hanging out with
So
people and not be a good manager.
The crows are like your coworkers who you like get along really well with.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're not really. Crows don't really work on tasks together. They're very solo in their work style. But Harris hawks
Okay,
are.
so there's like one of them working now.
Yes, but Harris hawks are exceptional at working together. Like they form tight groups and they can form these groups very quickly. Harris hawks can get to know each other and then begin on a project. And by a project, I mean killing like a small animal.
That's cool.
And they can be very efficient at it without
If they're
knowing.
all management, wouldn't that cause conflict?
Well, I don't particularly think so because generally Harris hawks resolve conflict relatively quickly among themselves, and once they can agree to get on to doing something, then they can do it without very much dispute. Harris hawks are kind of not rigid per se, but they're very quick to establish and maintain a social order.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Cool.
The memer says, how long would Quetzalcoatlus' teeth be? Quetzalcoatlus didn't have teeth.
If they did have teeth, how long would they have to be?
It's a good question.
I feel like they wouldn't be that long.
Well, yeah, I mean, the best size for a tooth for a Quetzalcoatlus have is none, because it makes them much more efficient at flying. You see that trend really with a lot of the large pterosaurs. Jesus, I'm so bad at pronouncing words tonight. Pterosaurs, where they reduce the size of their teeth to fly better, because teeth take up more weight than a Ramphotheca, which is the keratin beak covering.
Your teeth have weight to them?
Yeah. If you're looking at flying animals, teeth are way, way heavier
But
than.
you also need more support structure for teeth than you do for a beak, right?
Not really. You need less bone to support a beak than to support teeth, but the bone that supports a beak can be hollower than the bone that teeth are made out of.
Well, yeah.
Teeth are very hard and
so
very
it's just
heavy.
generally lighter.
Yeah.
Like so you need less support structure for a beak.
Yeah. Teeth. The lack of teeth really helps you to not be front heavy, and Quetzalcoatlus is already a very front heavy animal, as are a lot of pterosaurs.
Because they got massive heads.
Yeah, they have huge heads.
It's just such a ridiculous shape.
Their head is about as long as their neck, and their neck is about as long as a giraffe neck.
This massive fucking head.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Quetzalcoatlus. I do not know what's wrong with me tonight. I'm like brain scrambled. I think it's because I've been writing about diatoms for the last 3 days.
Oh my god.
Could it also be the hour of which you are doing this live?
Yeah.
I mean, we
Well,
usually do
this
them
is
this
actually
late.
earlier than I usually do them.
Que hora es?
Yeah, it is. It's about 10:30 where I am right now.
Oh, it's 9:30 for me. So you're an hour ahead.
Yeah. What dinosaur has 500 teeth? A lot of different adrosaurs and pretty much all the Rebecchusaurid sauropods.
Are there any dinosaurs that just ate everything? Just like completely like trash diet, kind of like
Like a
modern
vulture?
day.
Like a vulture?
Yeah, no, not like a vulture, but like they would eat things that aren't actually food, like rocks, leaves.
Well, lots of dinosaurs eat rocks. Gastroliths are super important for the digestion of a lot of different groups of dinosaurs, and so we get gastrolith traces from loads and loads of different dinosaurs depending on their diet.
Or like just like actual shells?
I don't know about shells. There's very little around that intentionally eats shells today. Pretty much anything that does is going after the mollusk inside. Globidens isn't a dinosaur, it's an extinct lizard, but it's an aquatic lizard that specialized in eating ammonites. And so obviously went extinct when the ammonites died out. But it certainly took shells into its mouth and would have swallowed them, not to get nutrition from them, but to get at the ammonite inside of them.
Oh, cool. Are there any dinosaurs that had traits similar to like bioluminescence?
We don't know about any bioluminescence in dinosaurs at the moment because this sort of thing would be very difficult to fossilize well enough to identify.
That's a fair statement.
Yeah.
So they could be glowing. We just can never know.
It's
that would be cool.
It would require a lot of selective pressure, but it's not impossible. Bioluminescence has evolved many times in nature under the right circumstances. I don't know what circumstances dinosaurs would derive bioluminescence in, but
maybe
I'm not like a professional researching this. I'm just going to continue to imagine all dinosaurs are just glowing.
Hey, I think as long as you don't go around telling people that dinosaurs were glowing all the time, that's an okay thought to hold in your mind.
maybe it's like Ray Down. It has an innate understanding of the concept of coolness.
Yeah, that's false.
Well, I don't know. I think there's some real awesomeness to a lot of the modern paleo art that you just didn't get in like older stuff because people were so like boxed in by our idea of what dinosaurs could be because they were so close to reptiles. But like new research kind of opens up a lot of windows for interesting dinosaur designs.
All I know is that I saw a dinosaur when I was in 5th grade, and they showed me this really monotone video with a bunch of bad CGI, and that is how dinosaurs look from now on.
Yeah, I think that's the experience for a lot of people. But if you can, go watch some clips from Prehistoric Planet, because I think that'll increase your appreciation for how far dinosaur science has come in the last few years, and improved our understanding of what a lot of these animals would have looked like. And they are very cool. Is the Mosasaurus a dinosaur? Everyone says it isn't. The big debate about Mosasaurus is whether it was a pythonomorph lizard or a varanid lizard. I'm in Team Varanid. Yeah, particularly because of the nature of the socketed teeth you see in mosasaurs, and I think they have such the early mosasaurs have such well-developed limbs that it makes more sense to me that it would be a varanid than a pythonomorph. Pythonomorphs also have like split jaw. I'm gonna drop you because I'm answering some of these chat questions, but thanks for coming.
Okay.
Thank
you for answering my customer service questions. Goodbye.
Yeah, of course. Bye-bye.
It's a good question.